I'm going to give you all the tips for how to create unforgettable characters, just like successful authors do. If you want your book to strike a chord with readers and just become something that everybody has to buy and read, then you really need to start with unforgettable characters. When I first started out and I was rejected all over the place, a lot of the letters that I got said these characters didn't come alive for me. They weren't three-dimensional. I didn't connect with them. And I had no idea what that meant. It took me a while to figure out what went into creating a compelling character. And once I did, it made it a lot easier for me to sell a book. And I went on to sell 85 books in 24 countries. And I'm going to give you the secrets that I learned and some writing exercises so you can implement it in your book right now. What successful authors do with their characters is, number one, they create a world around them. They don't just spring up on the page without any kind of a history or a life. This was one of the mistakes I made a lot. I just had the characters in their present day world, but I didn't have a world that existed before that moment. That world is super important. It should be vibrant and full of life and full of every richness that they would have as a human being, because the characters that come alive on the page are just like you and I. So your character could be going to coffee on Tuesdays with their best friend, or have dinner with grandma every Sunday, or take the train and see the same 5 people every day. And that's called their ordinary world. And it's really necessary for you to know. You don't have to put it in the book because sometimes you're going to get right to the action, but you should know it because it will impact everything that comes after. When you know this world and the reader can get a glimpse into it, the reader knows what the character is risking as they go after their goal. They know what they could possibly give up. We just watched Nobody with Bob Odenkirk, and when the bad guys come for him, we already know that he has this wife and kids and a house and this life that he has built up. It may not be the happiest life, but we know that when he goes after the bad guys, that is what he is risking losing. And we really want him to succeed because we don't want to see him lose this family that means so much to him. So know your character's ordinary world so that you can set those stakes and make the reader really invested in the outcome. For a writing exercise, I want you to write 2 or 3 pages of your character just going through their day-to-day life. Again, you may not use this in your book, but you should know what it is. The other thing that successful authors do is they build memories into that world. Those memories make the world that much richer. In Riley Sager's Home Before Dark, which is a kind of a ghost story, the character that comes back to town has a memory of the house that she's in, and her memory may not be 100% accurate because she was there when she was a little girl. Everything that she sees is filtered through the memory of being a child. That affects her interpretation of what happens in the house. In Scott Carson's The Chill, if you guys didn't know it, this is Michael Corita, who's one of my very favorite authors, and I was super excited to see him back with a supernatural book. The dam that serves the water supply for the entire town has a huge history, figures prominently into the book. The characters each have their own history with that dam and with that setting. And so when they get there and they see the water, each of them interprets it a little bit differently and has a little bit different reaction to it. Those memories are triggered by the character visiting a place that they are familiar with.
I don't even know who I am.
For your writing exercise, I want you to create 3 memories that have happened in that ordinary world over the course of your character's life. I want you to use those memories at some point in your plot because these things that they remember are triggered when they go by that location. That leads into the 3rd tip for what successful authors do. They realize that the impact of those memories creates responses. If you study a little bit of human psychology, then you know that we all have 3 responses to a trauma or to a scary thing. Fight, flight, freeze. We either fight back or we run or we freeze and don't know what to do. When you go back to those memories with your character, I want you to think about what impact those memories had on them and what response it is causing in your character. So let's say that the character has seen a car accident on the way to work, and so they're riding the train every day because they're terrified to get in their car because they're convinced that could have been them. That's the impact, and the response for them to that location where the car accident happened is to flee, to not go near it, to avoid it. For Deadpool, when he goes back to the apartment where his wife dies, has a response to that, which is to get angry, and it makes him want to fight back and get the bad guys that much more. When your character goes back to a location where they have a memory that has an impact on them, I want you to decide, are they going to fight, flight, or freeze? Are they going to use that as fuel to get what they want? Are they going to run away from the emotions that that moment causes in them? Or are they going to totally freeze? Because that you can use in your plot. That will create a response which could make things worse, which raises the stakes, which increases the tension, which keeps the reader turning the pages to see how it turns out. In The Chill, the main character has a bunch of traumas in his past. And so sometimes he fights, sometimes he flees, and sometimes he freezes. And each of the times that he does that affects the plot and what happens with it. The reason why successful authors do all this is that they want multi-layered characters that have an emotional bond with the reader. I've said it 1,000 times. That emotional bond is what makes the reader keep coming back. It can also be very difficult to create. So these kinds of exercises really help you dig deep into your character and know them, and then bring that to the page. If you want more on characters, I have a whole character series of videos that you can watch. While you've got your paper out, I've got a few bonus questions you can ask your character. What are they completely afraid of? What is their deepest fear? Because the greatest thing you can do is use that in the plot. Make them face their biggest fears, because the reader really wants to see them overcome it. And the second thing that you can use is what matters most in the world. What will they sacrifice everything to protect? For Bob Odenkirk, that is his family. Try to use that in the book. Put your character in a situation where they have to put something that matters to them at risk in order to achieve what they want. That moment, that tension in the reader's gut, is what successful authors know the kind of thing you want to create with all of these situations that your character gets themselves into.